This video is a compilation of all Tiny Tina Wonderlands best build episode, which include all 7 Wonderland classes. You can use this as a comprehensive guide on how to do endgame content for each classes. I have put a timestamp on each build so you can skip to them if you want. Also, a little bit of minigame for you guys. Try to count the amount of time I have mentioned ancient rule throughout this video. Comment it down below, and if you are correct, I might pin your comment. Before the video starts, though, remember to like, share, sub to the channel if you haven't done that already. Comment down below on what you think about the video. Join the Discord server if you want to get the save file, or just want to have a chat with me. With that being said, let's cue in the intro.
Welcome to Tiny Tina Wonderlands Best Build, a series where I showcase the best build for each classes, so you know how to build your character to their best potential, as well as knowing which gear or skill you should be looking out for. Through this series, I hope that you get a better understanding of how the Wonderlands endgame scene is going on, or at least this series can aid you in the endgame adventure, so that you will have a better time grinding 100 chaos level. Yeah. And for the first episode, we have Spellshot. Spellshot is a classes of gun and spell, and it is great at both, so you often see either a gun build or spell build for Spellshot going around, or even a hybrid build between them two. Spellshot can also do some melee stuff, but I will explain that later in this video, so let's get in. Okay, and for number 4, we have Speedscallion. This is a Spellshot and Stabbomancer build made by Ancient Rune. This is a gun and spell hybrid build that aim for big damage for fast killing. I wouldn't go as in depth into this build as a normal build video would be, but if you want to find further information about this build, you can go into the Wonderland endgame doc. I will leave it down in the description, and there are even a video made by Ancient Rune showcase this build so you can learn more from there, but I'm just going to make a very quick summary of this build. This build basically is trying to combine both gun and spell into its playstyle and tie them together with one skill, which is Double Knot. The reason this build works so well is because that you are investing into gun damage, but at the same time Double Knot allows for the investment into gun damage convert into spell damage, which is really nice. And generally, you would want your gun to do the mobbing and the spell to do the bossing, because you know a spell is the one who has a double dip in this build. But you can still try and do bossing with the gun since you already have a lot of gun buff, so it is still doable. But generally, you would want to do the bossing with spell. And because of that reason, I don't see this build really stand out that much for me. So I put it in number 4. For number 3, we have Glutrot. Spellshot Blightcaller build made by Ancient Rune. It is a gun build and it focuses around the Gluttony gun. With that being said, you can also use as a gun, but Gluttony will be your main this one. This build is also very tanky for a gun build because of Shot Shield of survivability. So literally the only thing that will kill you in this build is Gluttony reload itself. So the reason I put it above Speedscallion because it is modified and the gameplay is less clunky, and you will have a better time building up towards this because you know what to do and don't have to rely on other source. Like, I mean, Speedscallion is very backward in the way that you are investing in one thing, but the other thing is actually more effective. So this, in a philosophy way, this is a lot better. So I put it in number 3. For number 2, we have Spellshot. This Spellshot Brr-zerker build was made by Ancient Rune. It is a melee build that utilizes Spellblade, and the fact that this weapon damage is also increased by spell damage, so we use Spellshot for that. And because it is a melee weapon, as this is a melee build, we use Brr-zerker for its great formulas and Blightfuse, which is a melee double dip. There are also an alternative version where we use Stabbomancer and Chemical Agent, which is also very interesting, but from my playing experience, the Brr-zerker version is way better The reason this is number 2 is because of the fact that it is melee, and melee in this game is way better than gun and spell, like marginally way better. And the playstyle is also very addicting. For me at least, many people don't really enjoy melee in this game, but I still love going up to face to face to enemy and whack them. So that is for number 2. Honorable mention. Now, what I would often do for this honorable mention section is showcasing the builds that like very gimmicky in some way. So, in today's honorable mention, we are showcasing Skeepzerker, which is a Spellshot Berserker build made by HM. This build is trying to use the polymorph skill and triggering its special ability in order to recast the same spell over and over, which makes for a very fun gameplay. This build is quite strong by itself, but I figure that since the gameplay is pretty clanky, very gimmicky, so I put it in honorable mention. But there are a lot of great moments you get out of this build. Now, lastly, for number 1, we have Spellsplosion. This Spellshot Graveborn build was made by HM, and this is undeniably the strongest as well as the most popular build that Spellshot have in its arsenal. Now, this is described as a quick setup for using most spells in Wonderlands. But mainly you will use the Laser Hand or the Frozen Orb or the Wicked Gossip because they are some of the best spells in this game. But generally you can use literally any spell in the game, including some non-unique one. This build is incredible in its damage output, and the fact that this build has 2 double dipping skills make it very strong and can put out millions of damage at the end game. And also it is very great at survivability due to Graveborn skills. One thing to note is that double knot is very special in that if you aim it at the crit spot of an enemy, it will also crit. One of the most common mistakes that I see people do is that not aiming the spell in the crit spot because they think they already have 100% spell crit chance, so why even aim it at the crit spot? No, aiming at the crit spot is very important because it allows double knot to crit, so you are double dipping your crit damage. With that being said, this is the best build, and if you are doing spell shot and want the best damage output possible, I would recommend you going for this build. And it is pretty easy to build up to work to. And for the second episode, we have Stabbomancer. Stabbomancer is designed as this Jack of all trades class. It has skills that buff, spell, guard, melee, and dot. So you will see a diverse range of build archetypes for this class. Hence, this is, in my opinion, one of the best classes in Tiny Tina Wonderlands. So let's get in. For number 4, we have Ghostblade, made by Mr. Viper, Quark, and HM. This Stabbomancer build is all about Ghostblade damage. Our primary source of damage are our melee attacks, and the dot damage ensuing from alchemical agent. This build is pretty safe in terms of survivability because most of the time you will be using the Stabbomancer action skill Ghostblade to kill enemy from afar. This build is quite easy to build up, but to make it consistent, it requires a little bit more gear. What does this mean is that you need to find rings that has enough melee critical hit chance in order to get to 100% because Ghostblade will need that in order to proc alchemical agent. Now there are a lot of versions of this Ghostblade build. There are a Blightcaller version, a Blood of the Fallen version, which uses Brr-zerker as its second class. This version has the most Ghostblade uptime because we are using Blood of the Fallen. There are also Clawbringer version, another Brr-zerker version that actually can reach the peak damage for Ghostblade, but it does require a lot of gear in order to pull it off. So in general, I would recommend you using the Blightcaller version because it is the most consistent and requires the minimal gear to power up. Next up, we have another action skill based build, which is Dreadwind. This Stabbomancer and Brr-zerker build were made by Quark, and each trying to maximize the Dreadwind damage while also dealing with one of its biggest weakness, which is its vulnerability when using the skill. So the way we are maximizing Dreadwind here is obviously Alchemical Agent, because it is the only way we can double dip Dreadwind. Stuff like unarmored defense can help you feel less vulnerable while you are using Dreadwind. There are two variants of this build, one where you spec into Blood of the Fallen in order to get more Dreadwind uptime, the other where you spec into the Alchemical Agent in order to get more damage. And generally I find Blood of the Fallen to be quite redundant in this build, so I would recommend you going for the Alchemical Agent spec. But it is up to your choice. The Blood of the Fallen option isn't too bad either. You can still do this damage, just not as consistent. Like if you are trying to build this, I would recommend going for the Alchemical Agent route first, and once you have decent gear and you are confident that you will deal more damage, you can switch to Blood of the Fallen. For build number 2, we have Blender by Lazy Data. This is another Brr-zerker Stabbomancer build, but instead of trying to focus on any action skill, we are just trying to be an absurdly high DPS melee build. From my playing experience and from the feedback of the community, this is factually the best melee build in the game. If you want to do melee, this is the way to go. So to explain this further, this is just great formulas and double dip. It is quite simple, but the important thing lies in the gear choice. The melee weapons you would want for this build are sword and battery. That is the best one, but if you don't have it because you don't have the DLC, you can also choose the Wailing Banshee or my personal favorite, the Goblin Pickaxe. So 3 weapons has some of the highest DPS, and the sword and battery double dip by itself. So this is just insane. It can one shot a lot of bosses. Now there are 2 versions of this build. One where we spec into Executioner Blade so that we can get more reach into the enemy who aren't melee friendly. The other version is just maximize melee damage and doesn't spec into Executioner Blade. In my opinion, if you are trying to build up to this build, I would recommend you going for the first one where we don't spec Executioner Blade. Once you have enough damage and enough gear, then you can switch to the Executioner Blade spec. Honorable mention. In today's honorable mention section, we have Boris by Echelon, Quark and Shen. This Stabbomancer Graveborn build is the optimal setup for using the Stabbomantic because we are combining companion count with a lot of scale such as Faithful Trolls and the Brutal Stampede armor. Now this build can put out a lot of damage. It's pretty impressive from what I have played through, but the reason why I put it here is because the gear choice is quite specific. For this build, you really need to have the Brutal Stampede with gun damage in order to buff the Stabbomancer gun card. Now Brutal Stampede is just a pain in the ass to farm, but still if you want to pursue this build, you will still have a lot of fun. If you have played BL3 and use the Fire Puncher, this is exactly the same. Finally, the strongest Stabbomancer build in my opinion is Dorothy by Sporewarden and HM. This Blightcaller and Stabbomancer build is centered around doing dot damage or damage over time. There is one interaction from this build that can create infinite damage, which is the Barbarload and Spirit Swarm. I have explained it further in another video. You can check it out if you want to find out about this infinite damage interaction. But generally, this is just a really good dot build and is an optimal setup for any damage over time stuff. Now there are another version of this where we focus a lot more on gun and Geist in the shell spamming. You can try that version too, but that version doesn't spec into contagion. So for my playing experience, it isn't that strong at crowd controlling. So I would recommend you going for the general mainstream version where we have to point into contagion. But with Spear Swarm, it's hard to go wrong. And building up to this is quite easy and you can deal an insane amount of damage. This is the most damage you can deal in any landscape, technically, because it is infinite. So that's why I put it in top 1. It is undeniably the best build in Tiny Tina Wonderlands for any characters. And for the third episode, we have Sporewarden. Sporewarden is a class that have a mushroom companion. That is it. That is all you need to know about the class. I'm just kidding. The class mainly focus around doing gun stuff. There are some ability damage, but there isn't really ability build in this game. There are also some companion stuff, but in my opinion, they are pretty underpowered. So for these classes, you will mainly focus around gun. With that being said, let's get in. For build number 4, we have Magic Archer. This build isn't actually included in the endgame build doc, but I have made a video about it, so if you want to learn further about this build, you can check it out. Link will be down in the description. This build was made by me, and it is a companion Sporewarden Spellshot build that is trying to maximize the damage of the Love-Struck Bow spell. This spell is very special since it scales with spell damage and companion damage. So we are using the great formula regarding companion stuff in Sporewarden as well as Double Knot in order to greatly increase our Love-Struck Bow damage. This build can put out a decent damage number, and it is quite similar to the Pixie gameplay but less degenerate. Still, it suffers from the fact that you are clicking the same button over and over and lets the spell do the job for you instead of like being more proactive during your playthrough. So because of that reason, I'm putting it at number 4. For number 3, we have Brrage. This Sporewarden Brr-zerker build was made by HM and is trying to get as much damage out of the Sporewarden action skill Brrage. If that sounds too gimmicky for you, don't worry, this is also a really great gun build because we are using Blightfuse and place the angle at our gun double dip, and we also have great formula in order to support the double dip, include Wrath of Nature, Icebreaker, the old way, and just general great survivability because we are using Berserkers. So this is just a reliable and consistent gun build if you are trying to look for one. Next up, we have Blightfuse. This Blightcaller Sporewarden build was made by HM. It is your generic gun build. There aren't that much to talk about this build other than the fact that they can put out a lot of damage and very consistently too, because we are using 3 double dipping skill. Firstly is a Guy in the Shell, which is the most broken gun double dipping skill in this game. Secondly, we have the Angle, very strong but not a single target friendly double dipping, but still very strong for crowd controlling situation. Sporewarden is also great, but it cannot crit, so quite unfortunate, but it helps with the consistency of this build. So for this build you can use almost any guns, but if you can use some beta guns such as the Spellsplosion and the Ruby Spite, this build really shine. Honorable mention. For today's honorable mention section, we have POG Totem. This Blightcaller Sporewarden build was made by HM and Stormbringer. This build focuses on maximizing the damage of the Blightcaller action skill POG Totem. The action skill itself is quite weak, and this build was made for the sole purpose of being the optimal setup for AFK soul farming. If you don't know what that is, it is basically a farming method where in a certain DLC mirror you would AFK while letting your POG Totem to do all the killing of the mob there, and they would drop soul. And because this skill has its duration increase per kill, if you get enough damage, which in this build you will always get enough damage, that will continue infinitely and you will get a lot of soul that way. But if you want to actually kill stuff with this build, you can use the gun quick wing or pixie that do gun damage. Though can proc Guy the Shell, which can actually do damage and will be quite decent at bossing, but because it is so quick otherwise and pretty gimmicky and were made for soul farming purposes, I put it in honorable mention. And for number 1, the build that in my opinion is the best for Sporewarden, we have Candybore. Candybore was made by me, Nepta. It is a Sporewarden Stabbomancer gun build that utilizes the interaction between Brr-zerker and Marshmallow, when the player go particle would bounce off of Marshmallow back to the enemy and do it 2 times, and that will triple dip your damage. And in the way this build is set up, we often reach triple digit million of damage, which means you can one-shot every bosses at the endgame. Now, one tricky thing about this build is that you have to shoot at a certain angle in order for this to work. You should never shoot directly at the Marshmallow because the Marshmallow will actually absorb the damage. You should always try to hit the enemy in order for Brr-zerker to trigger. This build is quite hard to learn, but once you get the hang of it, it is very rewarding. You get to do insane amount of damage, and this build also doesn't require that much gear. You realistically only need a Marshmallow and some type of gun. I would recommend the blue cake, and you got the build going. Like, you don't need a God Roll Ammo or a God Roll Amulet to do it. Just need to know what you should go for. A lot of people are struggle with the mobbing. I would recommend getting a decent Spellsplosion or Ruby Spy, or you can switch to using Brrage and Sporewarden if you are struggling at mobbing, because this build can put out insane number of damage with minimal resources. I put this at number 1. No bias, by the way. And for the 4th episode, we have Brr-zerker. At the first glance, looking at the Brr-zerker class, you can see that it has a lot of skill regarding melee stuff, so you would think that it would be the archetype that you should mostly focus on, but that is only partially true, because there are a lot more skills that would contribute greatly to your damage formulas, such as Icebreaker, the Old Way, or Ancient Fury. So those things make the class more versatile and very well rounded. And it can do a lot of stuff, including gun, dot, and spell, where it would make an excellent second class because of its contribution to the damage formulas, as well as great survivability from unarmored defense and a lot of real regen. 8 capstone, Blood the Fallen is also great if you want to do some artisan skill based build, which I will feature a lot in this video. With that being said, let's get into the builds. For build number 4, we have Dreadwind. I have already talked about this in the Stabbomancer best build, but I will say it again. Dreadwind is a Brr-zerker Stabbomancer build made by Quack that is trying to maximize the damage of the Brr-zerker action skill, Dreadwind. There are 2 versions of this build, one spiked into Blood the Fallen for more Dreadwind uptime, the other spiked into Alchemical Agent for more damage. Again, use the Alchemical Agent version if you aren't confident about your damage. Use the other version if you prefer more uptime. The playstyle for this build is very simple. Click the action skill button, move around a lot in order to avoid damage. For build number 3, we have Barbara. This Stabbomancer Brr-zerker build was made by Shen and Quark, and it trying to focus on maximizing the damage of Executioner Blade. By using Alchemical Agent and Contagion, we get triple dip to our Executioner Blade damage as well as our melee damage, so this is great at both. This build really stands out because of its great survivability due to Brr-zerker power and due to the fact that we are using ranged melee stuff mostly. The playstyle of this build is to shoot your gun a lot or spam your spell in order to apply Executioner Blade and Stab will be killed. Additionally, you want to use some weapons that can apply crossbow to get more damage out of your Executioner Blade or just melee damage in general. For build number 2, we have BogBlade. BogBlade is a Blightcaller Berserker build made by Candybore. This build prioritizes big damage hit with Blast Shield and use that in combination with Bloodstorm for fast mobbing sections and quick boss mail. This build can actually reach up to infinite damage using the interaction between Echo and the Bloodstorm, where they change their damage lead to infinite dip. I have explained this further in this video, so you might want to check it out. The playstyle of this build is very simple. In both mobbing and bossing, you want to cast Bloodstorm, melee enemy, and the room will be clear or the boss will be clear. Simple as that. Honorable mention. For today's honorable mention section, we have AmpShot. This is a Berserker Stabbomancer build made by HM, and it focuses on utilizing different sources of amp, including amp from your shield and amp from the heal bot that you have on your melee weapon to deal a large amount of damage in a single shot, while also making it easy with hitting crits because we are freezing a lot of enemy with this build. And because of bonuses we take, we can make dots do pretty well, which will also be the way we do bossing. Because in this build we don't have any double dip for gun, so gun will be mainly for mobbing. This build is very interesting in the fact that it uses some niche item like the Spirit Rune with 2 amp parts on it. You can also use a purple shield with triple amp too, which is very interesting skill choice. The playstyle of this build is to activate from the shadow action skill, cast your sigil to freeze an enemy, melee them to get amp, and your amp gas should be full since you froze everyone with your sigil, or your sigil is protecting you. And then hit the crit spot. Repeat that over and over, and that is how you pilot the build. The reason I put it in honorable mention, despite it being quite strong and fun, is this because if you take this as a gun build, it isn't that great because there are no gun double dipping. If you take this as a dot build, it isn't top tier or not comparable to other dot build, so I put it in here. Still, the concept is very interesting and worth a look at. Now, for number 1, for the strongest build for Berserker in my opinion, Blender. Blender is a Stabbomancer Berserker build by Lazy Data. This build is trying to be the best setup for just meleeing in general, and it did one hell good job at it. Many people, including those at the top of the Ghostblade scene, consider this to be the best melee build in the game due to the absurdly high DPS it can put out, as well as insane utilities and survivability. From the first glance, you might say that this is a quite simple and generic melee build for Frostshipper, and you would be correct, but because of optimization made by experts, this is enough to outshine literally any other melee build available. The playstyle of this build is pretty simple. Swing your weapon for big damage that will clear both mobbing and bossing. For those enemies that aren't very melee friendly, you can spec into Executioner Blade and use high fire red gun, and that would be problem solved.
And for the 5th episode, we have Blightcaller. Blightcaller is straight up the strongest class in the game. It can put out the most damage out of any class, and consistently too. It can do almost any type of build archetype, including gun, melee, spell, dot, and companion, you name it. Now, because Blightcaller is a DLC class, it is up to you to choose whether or not the DLC or PLC is worth it for this class. But with all that, let's get in. For build number 4, we have Glutrot. Glutrot is a Blightcaller Spellshot build made by HM that is trying to utilize the Glutrot gun. This gun's special ability is that it gets more damage the lower your health is, and with Blightcaller guys in the shell, we are able to double dip this very powerful gun. This build is also very tanky because of Deathless and Blightcaller general great shield regen ability.
Now the playstyle for this build is for the crit spot, very important because that will proc the guys in the shell so that you will do a lot of damage. That way, use the sigil to protect yourself and be careful of the Glutrot reload because that can easily down you. For build number 3, we have Blightfuse. This is another gun build, but this time it is Sporewarden at the second class. This gun build was made by, you guessed it, Ancient Rune. Not much to say about this build outside of it being a pretty generic gun build with a lot of gun double dip, including Sporefuse, Geist, Play the Angle, so you will be expecting a pretty consistent damage output out of this build. The playstyle of this build is to aim for the crit spot, to proc Geist and play the angle, activate the Brrage, and shoot in order to proc Sporefuse. Next up, we have BogBlade. This is a Blightcaller Brr-zerker melee build made by Candybore. Build prioritizes big damage hits with Blightfuse and use that in combination with Stormbringer for fast mobbing section and quick boss melt. This can reach up to infinite damage using the interaction between Echo and Storm. I have explained the interaction further in this video, so you might want to check it out. Basically, you just need to know that Echo can scale off of the elemental bow of Storm, and that elemental bow can also scale off Echo, so they kind of chain together infinitely, making an infinite dip. The playstyle of this build is to cast Storm, melee enemy, and clear the room. Simple as that. Honorable mention. For today's honorable mention section, we have POG Totem. This is a companion build using the Blightcaller and Sporewarden classes, and this was made by Ancient Rune. This build is focused around maximizing the POG Totem damage, which sounds kinda gimmicky, and it is. The reason this build exists is that it is the optimal setup for AFK soul farming. If you don't know what that is, there are many videos on YouTube explaining that. Now, if you actually want to use this build to grind chaos levels, the only way to deal damage is to use the gun with wings or pixies that deal gun damage in order to proc guys in the shell. Otherwise, POG Totem is quite weak in higher chaos level. The playstyle of this build is to throw your gun companion to deal damage, but most importantly to proc bog down for soak, shoot, Queen's Cry, taser enemy, crit spot in order to stack 2 of the hunt and proc M up, which will be important for your damage formulas. Finally, the best Blightcaller build and as well as the best build in the game period, we have Dorothy. This is a Blightcaller Stabbomancer dot build made by Stoneguan and Ancient Rune, 2 of the best hero characters that this game has to offer. This build is all about dot damage or stated effect damage. Now there are many versions of this build, there are gun version, spell version. So this build is very diverse in the way that it can apply dot, and it has a very strong interaction that makes it build broken, which is the BogBlade Spirit Swarm. I have explained it further in this video, you can check it out. But basically the BogBlade and Spirit Swarm create another infinite deep interaction, and it is very strong. I have tested this at Chaos 500 with mod, and this performed really well. Actually, it is the only build that can perform in Chaos 500. So, other than that, this build also used Contagion and Spirit Swarm. Those 2 are just 2 broken dot double dip, so you will get consistent bossing and mobbing damage regardless of if you are abuse the BogBlade or not. Just make sure that you have enough gear to support the dot formulas. The playstyle for this build is to apply stated effect however you like. It can be gun, melee, or even spell, so that is why we have so many versions of this build. Once you have applied a dot, keep applying it, and the double dip will carry you. Additionally, apply crossbow if you are using the BogBlade.
And for the 6th episode, we have Clawbringer. Clawbringer, while it is not the strongest class in the game, it has some really cool features, like the Thor Hammer, which you can use it to trigger on action skills that enchant pretty consistently. Or A good skill that provides insane formulas for your crit damage, and that is about it. Quite disappointing compared to other classes, isn't it? The Clawbringer class has the biggest case of only being the second class for most builds. Many people consider it to be the weakest class in the game, me included. Regardless, it still has some very strong builds worth trying out that will be featured in this video, so let's get in. For build number 4, we have Hammerdigm. This build is described as a very weird and niche build that takes bonuses that benefit both Stormbringer Judgment and spells. This is a way to play Executioner without it feeling like a Clawbringer favor spellshot. This allows the hammer action skill to do damage during mobbings, and during bossing we can use the power double knot, being a double dipping skill for spell. For this build you would want to use some meta spell like the Frozen Orb or the Wicked Gossip, and even the triple ice spike purple can also be great here. For the gun you would want some high crit gun which will boost the double knot. For the armor you would want to find as much point into all as possible because this is the best Clawbringer skill. But other than that, the playstyle for this build is to throw hammer and cast spell for damage, and for the crit spot, weak spell when possible. Shotgun is a crit spot in order to proc severe threat and cap of ties. If using showcasing ring, then get the gun magazine to low ammo before doing big damage attack. That's about it. For build number 3, we have Geist Knight. This is a Clawbringer Blightcaller gun build made by Ancient Rune. This build is like any Blightcaller gun build that is using the Geist in the shelf so that we get big damage from our guns. Now, with Clawbringer we are getting Awe, which is a very strong skill that play really well into Geist formulas. We are also getting Hammer, which can trigger action skill start enchantment and provide us with further damage. So for the gear you would want to use some pretty meta gun here. Ammo, the selective amnesia is preferable because we are using Blightcaller and Blightcaller has insane shield regen ability. Obviously get as much point into all as possible because we are using Clawbringer and Blightcaller. The chance of you getting all point is more likely, so that is very nice. The playstyle for this build is to throw hammer to trigger enchantment and proc dot, use meta gun and aim for the crit so that you can trigger guys. For build number 2, we have Hammer Stab. This is a tanky melee build made by Ancient Rune. We are using Clawbringer and Brr-zerker as our class combo. We do use Stormbringer Judgment for this build only for mobbing and artifacting enchantment, but mainly you would want to melee enemies to proc blood shield. For this build, you meta melee weapon like the Goblin Pickaxe or the Welling Banshee and even the Sword and Battery. Be really nice in this build. Use some like the Tuterator to apply the melee damage bolt or the live wire to get another double dip. For the armor, we aren't actually using any ore for this armor, so that is one nice thing because we aren't relying too much on ore, so this is nice. The playstyle of this build is to throw hammer and melee enemies, cast spell to either soak or freeze enemy to further helping your melee or hammers. Honorable mention for today. Honorable mention, we have Hammerfire. This Clawbringer Brr-zerker hybrid build was made by Ancient Rune and is trying to make both melee and gun work within one build. This build is basically Hammer Stab with some modification to the skill tree in order to fit in some gun stuff. In most situations, you would want to use your gun for mobbing and let melee do the bossing thanks to blood shield. You meta gun weapon like the Crossblade, the Riveteer, the Last Rite, or Spellsplosion. Ruby Spy can also be a great option. And the White Rider, the second shooting mode, provides you with a lot of damage. For the armor, obviously look for as much point into all as possible, since realistically this is the best that the Clawbringer can offer to a build. This build can comfortably tear through Chaos 75, and you will need to have perfect gear in order for it to work at Chaos 100. The playstyle for this build is to aim for the crit with gun, melee enemy to proc blood shield and echo, throw hammer to proc enchantment, and it should be going. Now for number 1, the best Clawbringer build in my opinion, let me introduce you guys to Stormbringer. Another hammer build, but this time it actually can do bossing damage because we are adding it with the best melee skill in the game. You guess it? Amico Agent. This Clawbringer Stabbomancer build was made by Asian Rune, and with the combination of great melee skill from Clawbringer and Alchemical Agent and Contagion from Stabbomancer, this is the best you can do with Clawbringer at endgame. The playstyle of this build is try to get to 100% melee crit chance without giving up too much damage, and the best way to do it is using the Goblin Pickaxe. The Goblin Pickaxe can reach up to 21% critical hit chance, but realistically you would often get the 19% or 60% of those are usable and all great. And because we are getting a lot of points into all, this will be multiplied very quickly and you will easily get 100%. If you can get it, you can invest into dexterity in order to get the last point into crit chance and get to 100%. The reason why 100% is very important because we want to proc Alchemical Agent and we aren't going to use from the shadow. Generally, you would want to apply some crossbow, melee damage crossbow, melee enemy if you have the consecutive hit melee enchant and warrior or caustic, heal mod, cast spell for melee damage enchant, throw hammer, and you will get big damage, which is nice. And for the final episode, we have Graveborn. Graveborn is a class that specializes in health manipulation, with the ability to be tanky and use those extra health to turn into damage. That being said, with the saturated state of Chaos 100, the class identity is being overshadowed as just being a Blastguard, Faithful Troll, Brutal Stampede class. With that being said, Graveborn still has a diverse range of builds which will be included in this video. For build number 4, we have Slampage. This is a Brr-zerker Graveborn build made by Asian Rune. This build is trying to get the most out of dire sacrifice, one of Graveborn as a skill, making it one of the most powerful way to do mobbing. But one unfortunate thing about this action skill is that it falls off hard at bossing even if we build into it. That's why we are also focusing around blast shield and melee in order to do our bossing businesses. For the gear choice, you would want to get some ability damage rings. For the melee weapon, you would want the Goblin Pickaxe because it has the highest crit chance. For the armor, this might be too much for you guys, but try to get a Brutal Stampede with the ability damage and melee damage. You doesn't have to get this specific two, only one is great enough. Try to get some good passive like aerial damage, ability damage or damage. And for the shield, you should get a static charge because this has the highest shield capacity for non-unique, and this can be turned into large amount of health via unarmored defense, which benefit die sacrifice very much. The playstyle for this build, for mobbing, you would want to throw gun with wings and cast spell to spawn a lot of companions, then activate die sacrifice in a group of enemies to get a lot of kills, which should near instantly restore your cooldown because of Blood of the Fallen. You can also melee with your pickaxe for the rest of the cooldown if needed. For bossing, throw a bunch of gun with wings and cast spell to spawn a lot of companions. This will stack up Faithful Troll stack as well as Brutal Stampede stack. Shoot Tuterator for melee crossbow, shoot Delusion for soak if you want. Swap to live wire, melee the boss, and just pray that blast shield proc enough. For number 3, we have Boris. This is a Graveborn Stabbomancer build made by Ancient Rune, Quack and Shan. This is the optimal setup for using the Stabbomancer for damage instead of just on the side for your melee builds. Can you guess what we are using to boost the Stabbomancer? If you say anything other than Alchemical Agent, you're wrong. That in combination with Graveborn formulas makes this build very competitive at Chaos 100. For the gear choices, for the melee weapon, you would want to use the Snake Stick in order to spawn extra companion with stack up Faithful Troll stack and Brutal Stampede, which, while it is very hard to farm, you should only be looking for the gun damage part on this armor. And for the passive, get all damage, they are melee damage, all that good stuff. For the amulet, you should be using the universal soldier because this makes that so you don't have to reload anymore. For the playstyle, melee enemy to spawn hydras, cast spell to spawn more hydra companions. Do it instead of to spawn your melee hydras and still have the spell card enchant active when you shoot your gun. Once you have stacked up all the companion, start shooting with your Stabbomancer and everything should be gone. Next up, we have Bloody Frostbite, a Graveborn Brr-zerker spell build made by Casey and Ancient Rune. This build, while it is a gimmick of trying to make spell work without using Spellshot, Bloody Frostbite is still a very strong build for spells and a great alternative if you are tired of the same Spellshot build. For the gear choice, there are quite a lot of gear choice. For spell here, we can use either the Frozen Orb, but only if you have a crit chance part on it. Otherwise, it is not worth using. Other than that, we can use the Wicked Gossip. This spell is very insane. It can double dip on its own and can double dip Blast Cap. And any triple Ice Spy purple is worth using here. For lower chaos level, like for 75 for example, there can be a lot more spell used like the Dazzler or the Twister. All of those spells are really good. For the armor, it is mandatory that you have to use the Selective Amnesia because of its great synergy with Ripple Boons, as well as its ability to keep the curse width down. For the playstyle, make sure that your magazine is low to benefit shell casing rings if you are using one that is. Activate Ripple Boon, that way the Selective Amnesia will be active too, and hopefully it will break your curse width. And from there, you just need to cast spells and do big damage. Very simple. Honorable mention. For today's honorable mention section, I present you not a build but rather an archetype. It is Pixie, one of the two things that I promised to not talk about, but since this is the final episode, I think it's time for me to break the rule a bit. Pixie is exceptionally strong on Graveborn due to the class many skills that support it like Faithful Troll or Blast Cap. There is no best setup for Pixies in every build can put out the same amount of power, but I'm planning on making one that is most accessible to you guys. That doesn't require insanely specific gears. At the end of the day, it is still Pixie. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, it is definitely not my cup of tea. I hate the fact that this build plays a game for you and how unbalanced this is, but it is still strongest when paired with Graveborn in my opinion. Very strange that the dev didn't do anything to it while the game is still in development. For the best build for Graveborn, it is Spellsplosion, which is also the best setup for spell in Wonderlands. This build utilizes both Double Knot and Blast Gap to be the strongest spell double dipping mechanic in this game, and Graveborn great formulas and survivability, making this build able to beat 100% of all content in the game. For the gear choices, you would want to use meta spell like the Laser Hand, Wicked Gossip, Triple Ice Spike, and even some Frozen Orb with the crit chance part. For the weapon, you should be using any high card crit weapon to act as a static because as you can see here, this gun had plus 33% critical hit damage, and this is a pure mood if the double knot ever crit by itself, which is insane. The playstyle for this build is aim for the crit spot on the enemy, even though the laser hand can crit on itself regardless of aiming or not. We should still be aiming for the crit spot because that way double knot can crit and that will get us the maximum damage. spam spell for survivability with Senjun Sacrament. Take some damage in order to keep the curse grid down, and once it is at 0 capacity, it will stay there because of glass cannon. And that is it for Graveborn best build. Hope you enjoy it. If you find this video useful, remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. Comment down below on what you think. Join the Discord server for every save 5 and for the final episode of Wonderlands best build. See you guys next time.